Hello kids, Mr. Young here with our vocab as promised for Chapter 14. Just take a look, and then when you feel ready, go ahead and take the quiz. Alright, up first, clipper ship. They were new sailboats at the time. They are ships with sleek hulls and tall sails in order to clip time from long journeys. So basically it was a new type of sailboat that shortened the trip across the ocean. Very fast sailboats, sort of the pinnacle of sailboat technology. They get replaced by steamships very shortly. Telegraph, a device that used electric signals to send messages, which leads us into Morse code, which is a system of dots and dashes that represent the alphabet that was sent over the telegraphs. They were sort of like the first phone lines, except no words per se. It was the dot dash dot Morse code system that they would use to send the messages. So you had to be able to read or decipher Morse code to send and receive messages. So they had special people that did that. Alright, trade union. A group of workers with the same trade or skill usually work together, like blacksmiths, gunsmiths, shoemakers, stuff like that. Strike, a work stoppage by employees as a protest against an employer. Interesting. Prejudice. We know what prejudice is. An unfair opinion not based on facts. You might not like someone because they're from somewhere or they look a certain way. Discrimination is unfair treatment, usually as a result of prejudice. Famine is an extreme shortage of food. A nativist is someone who opposes immigration, so they don't like different people coming into the country. A nativist. Productivity is a measure of how much a worker can produce with a given amount of time and effort. Usually you talk about productivity as like how hard are people working? Productivity. The domestic slave trade is the trade of enslaved people among states of the United States. So there's a point where there's no more slaves coming in from Africa, but there is still the trade of slaves within the United States. That is domestic slave trade. A yeoman is a farmer who owns a small farm. Typically we're talking about the South here. An overseer is a plantation manager. There's a very negative connotation because they're usually the guys like trotting around the plantation on their horse, keeping an eye on the slaves. And they're sort of like the slave driver, if you will. They're the ones who are always punishing slaves and making them work harder and things like that. Like a bad guy. He's usually seen as a bad guy, an overseer. A spiritual, an African American religious folk song. Slave codes are laws in southern states that controlled enslaved people. So it would say things like what slaves are allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. So like we talked about, all the slave codes wouldn't let slaves learn to read and write, because with education and knowledge comes power. And they didn't want to lose their slaves. The Underground Railroad is a system of cooperation to aid and house enslaved people who had escaped. So it was basically a whole system to help slaves escape from the South and get to the North. Literacy is the ability to read and write. So most slaves, because they were not allowed to be literate, were illiterate. Alright, that's the words. You've got the vocab quiz here. Nothing crazy. There's a lot of words though, so it's matching. 15 point matching quiz. Yep. Alright, that's it for now. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'll be moving right into lesson 1 and learning about the North. Alright, take care. I'll see you tomorrow.